Diana, it's been so many years.
Hello, Internet. Now please, hold on to your butt, as two comedians attempt to talk about serious subjects in a not-so-serious manner. From the mysterious to the utterly vicious, everything is fair game. This is the Kill Them With Comedy podcast, featuring true crime, amazing events, conspiracies, unsolved mysteries, and an array of weird and wonderful topics, all for your enjoyment. You're welcome.
And that proves that even people that you would trust with your life can, at some point, go fucking crazy.
Why don't you tell everyone for this new part 2, where they can, part 3 technically actually, topic 2, where they can find the post-apocalyptic metal treehouse, Mr. Nathan Parish.
Post-apocalyptic metal treehouse can be found on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever the you get your podcasts. And make sure when you listen to it, to listen to all of the episodes all the way through. That way, I get the views.
Yeah. That works. Yeah. And then watching.
But no, genuinely, like, and genuinely, though, it's out there. It's available. Episode 4 is pretty good. In fact, it's probably my favorite episode so far. And then episode 5 is coming out soon with the return of Jason Statham, and he's gonna get serious and hardcore.
Good old Jason Statham, not a redundant actor at all.
Not at all. No.
I love and hate Jason Statham. No, he's all right. I like his voice. That's all I like about him. And he's fighting. He's fighting.
Yeah.
His fighting is cool. That's about it.
See, I quite like Jason Statham because he's one of the old school, the last remaining old school action heroes, where it's just like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kick your ass, and it's gonna be awesome, and people are gonna love watching it. Why? Because I'm Jason Statham.
Looking at the way things are affected with generations like with that, though, it very much leads into my story, because so it's like, as you know, then this is like the murder of Princess Diana, Princess of Wales, I believe she was.
Yeah, Princess of Wales. Yeah.
It's hard to know where to really start with this. I mean, because a lot of people, it's reported in so many different ways. A lot of people have different ideas about it. A lot of people, I think our generation soured on the royal family at this point. So when our generation kind of stopped, because I remember like, you know, like everyone loved Princess Diana, all the parents loved her and stuff. When this happened,
and you still hear about it every so often. You'll still have a newspaper on a slow fucking week will just post up, Diana, it's been so many years.
And with the whole Meghan Markle thing now as well, you know, basically replaying it, that's obviously where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah.
But
if she ends up in a fucking tunnel somewhere, we all know what happened. Yeah.
There's just so much to this, though, that it's another one of those things where you hear it and you think, well, why would this be a conspiracy? But let me just explain what happened, and we'll just give the basic ideas of what happened first.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is essentially a story of the French police as well, kind of, and not. So before all of this happened, the day in question, anyway, Diana had married Prince Charles. She was a young girl, which is the usual case for the royal family. I forget the actual age gap, but pretty significant. She was in her like 16, I want to say, but
I think she's early 20s, and he was like 36 or 40ish, something like
that. Okay. Either way, I know that he wanted to marry Camilla Parker Bowles. He already made this public, who he is married to now. But she was told by the royal family he couldn't because she was already divorced from someone else, and he goes against their image, blah, 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 you know. So he eventually married Diana with always wanting Camilla. So you can see why eventually they didn't have a particularly happy relationship on the looks of it. Obviously, it was made out in the media to be the opposite, or in public. But all in all, they divorced basically after having 2 children, William and Harry, who are now obviously the tall ginger people that we see all the time. Recently on Oprah. with Megan, for example, the youngest one. So this is like the genesis of all of that, really. Though this is where it all starts.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those guys grew up without a mother because of this shit.
Yeah, they were young at the time, man. As well, they were only
they really were. They were about, well, they're roughly the same age as well. Will was roughly the same age as we were, just a bit older, I think. Well, yeah, he was like, because he's about what?
Oh, he's in the same age as us now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's like, yeah. Well, no, he was about 36-ish at the time.
What? At the
time?
No,
not at the time. So he's 36-ish now. At the time, he would have been about
1997.
Yeah, that's maths I can't do. I've been drinking too much. It's not going to happen.
From the looks of them, anyway, they were like around the 10. Like, you know, William was like around 10, that kind of age. You know? It wasn't like they were old. They were old enough that they kind of knew what was going on. They weren't young enough, you know, to have it kind of just go over their heads, kind of thing. So they'd split up anyway. Charles had started this relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. Eventually, I'm not actually sure when that started. I think it might have been some time after, actually. But there was always rumours that it was going on behind the scenes anyway. But by this time, Princess Diana had started a new relationship with Dodi Al Fayed, a businessman / son of a particularly wealthy businessman who owned the Ritz Hotel that they were actually staying in, and the story revolves around on that particular night.
Yes.
Which leads us up to the 31st of August, 1997.
Yeah, and Mohammed Al Fayed is still. Is he still around, or has he died recently? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I remember him distinctly from being on the Ali G show at one point. That's
okay.
That's the biggest thing I remember him being on, because like right at the end, he's had an interview with Mohammed Al Fayed. And Mohammed Al Fayed doesn't know what's going on. He's treating it all like a completely normal interview. He's sort of vaguely baffled by it, but he still thinks it's all real. And then by the end of it, he is like, Sacha Baron Cohen has managed to get Mohammed Al Fayed going like, okay, what we're going to do, is we're going to do a big theme tune for you when we're going on the way out, So what we're just going to do is we're going to scream, Muhammad, you shout Muhammad, and they'll go, Al Fayed. Yeah, and he goes, Muhammad Al Fayed, Muhammad Al Fayed, like that, just over and over and over. And it is
great.
One of the best bits of TV I've ever fucking seen, because Muhammad Al Fayed is having a fucking wonderful time during the entire time.
He seems like a pretty cool guy because I saw when I was watching a documentary of this, and there was a lot of clips of him talking about it, because obviously he wasn't involved, but his son was involved in it. So like there was that Diana, there was Faye Dodi, there was a bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and the head of the security for the Ritz Hotel, Henry Paul. They were attempting to evade photographers by leaving the hotel through a rear entrance to return to Dodi's apartment. They went a random way. A lot of people make a point of that. I assume just to kind of throw off the scent a bit.
Throw off the scent.
Why they went a really random way. Yeah. Makes sense to me. They're in the back seat, Dodi and Diana, of the black Mercedes S280, and the other two in the front. The paparazzi eventually noticed the car and made chase after the couple, because these people get like, you know, millions of pounds. Like there's one particular one that I'll mention, a paparazzi guy, millionaire, like multi-millionaire, just because of what he does. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's got a load of other paparazzi underneath him now, and he's got his own fucking paparazzi fucking setup.
Oh, no, he has nothing now, but we'll get to that.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Some of the facts are very messed up though, and some are convoluted and contradict each other, which is a very obvious sign to me of a conspiracy, where it's just it's hard to really understand what's going on, and it feels like it's like that on purpose.
Yeah, this is the thing again about the difference with the moon thing. Is like the moon conspiracy we talked about recently. It's like it's got a pretty logical layout of steps from the scientific community of why this all works this way. This one is like, yeah, maybe that, but also this at the same time, and that, and maybe that, and We don't really know. And
like this part I'll read out now, just kind of the bare bones of what happened, like carrying on from that. But it's like a lot of the stuff in question is the stuff that you find out afterwards. That if you just read these bare bones, you'd be like, okay, yeah, it just seems like like USA Today reported it that at 12:33 p.m. the speeding car in a misguided attempt to outrun photographers collides with a concrete pillar in the Ponte Lama tunnel, which is pretty presumptuous of a statement in general. Just saying that they're assuming, because it's just assuming that they were outrun. It's just very presumptuous of a statement, and it shows how like the media this was just one way that it was reported. It's reported in all different ways.
Yeah.
But that was America, because arguably she was like one of the most famous women in the world at the time.
Oh, she absolutely was. She could have gone anywhere in the world, and people don't know. God damn it!
I didn't know for a long time that this happened in Paris originally. When I only learned this over the past couple of years. I just remembered it as a kid,
Yeah.
There
was a really interesting bit in one of Stephen Fry's books where he was talking about Diana, and he was like, even though he was, this weird dude, and I think he'd come out as gay by that point as well, and stuff like that. He was
Fry.
she was. Yeah. When he met her, he was like, oh, she was incredibly seductive and open in a weird way. It wasn't like she was trying to. She wasn't trying to pick you up. She just had a very personal way of being around people and drawing people in and making. And he was like, oh, she could make anyone do anything she wanted them to do because she knew how to do it,
I've met people girls like that do it on purpose, and girls that have no idea what they're doing. So it's really hard. But then how do you know they're not actually the other side and just saying that, but it's just impossible to ever know. Sure. Yeah.
You just have to enjoy the ride.
In whatever way that comes.
Yeah.
Whether that is with a hand, with a dolphin, or with a car.
Yeah.
This ride wasn't a very enjoyable one though. Dodie and
this didn't go well.
Dodie and Henry Paul died at the scene. The bodyguard was taken to hospital. I believe he actually survived all in all. But there's not much talk of him. He hasn't really done many interviews from the sounds of it. He kept a bit quiet, almost like he was paid off or something.
Yeah,
that couldn't happen.
That's where my mind goes, because the amount of money he could have earned otherwise, unless you've been paid off to stay quiet or you die.
Which it makes sense.
It's got to be a carrot and stick situation. You can't just say we're going to kill you, or you get money. It's like, get money or we kill you.
I can imagine them threatening them and giving them money too. It's like, we'll give you the money if you play nice, but as soon as you play bad, bang bang.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's a security man,
because that's as I say, the carrot and stick. You've got that extra incentive. You're not gonna fuck them over.
So that's the bare bones, basically. They use a chainsaw to extract her from the car. Diana is eventually taken to hospital, and at 4 a.m. that same day, she's pronounced dead. The cause of death was cardiac arrest.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. What, the cardiac arrest part?
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it?
Cardiac arrest.
I don't really get how that would work, because from the sounds of it, it's like, she went through so much stuff that I guess her heart just kind of gave out. Maybe drugs too, but still.
Heart-based shock, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Drugs potentially, because, apparently she did.
But at the same time, though, you know what? Probably not, actually, because one of the reasons that it's thought that this happened, why it's thought that this was a planned thing, because we were saying at the time, why would this be the case now? Why would that just have happened at this time? It was widely believed, and more so since, that she was actually pregnant at the time with Dodie, and that would go into being involved in the royal family still. It would, in the way they see it, it does all this thing, its connections, all this. And
and then they don't want a Dodie Al-Fayed potentially able to get on the throne. No.
Yeah, even just being linked to it, in their eyes. But back then as well, more so. I don't imagine it's changed much now, though, when it's actually...
No, that's the thing. Again, that's why people are worried a bit about, what's her face?
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle, yeah. Won't necessarily be the best of breakups if they do.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, in regards to her now at the moment, I think most of like that interview, for example, I don't think she's a bad person. I think she believes a lot of what she's saying, but I think a lot of it was out of her stupidity. Like in regards to a lot of the racism stuff, I can completely buy those conversations happen, but I'm talking more about like not referring to her kids as princes. It's like, well, none of them are. William's kids aren't referred to as princes. That's just how it is. There's only so many lineages you can go, and they stop calling you princes. It's just how it works. And it's the same for William's kids. So why would you expect any different for yours?
Yeah, and also you've sort of declared yourself as out of it now as well. So they're never likely to be the ones who are going to be, and
I think the kids always get it in a sense, though, because I know Princess Diana's kids still had the Secret Service whenever Henry and Harry. No, Henry. Fucking what about William and Harry? I was merging the two names then.
Yeah.
Whenever they were around, but she just said no to the security generally. So that's just enough beating around it. Some of the weirdness then that's just involved in this, like I said, it's just randomly thrown out facts that don't really have any rhyme or reason most of the time.
That's all right. Hang on a second.
Burpity burp. Gives me a chance to quickly get an idea of what logic and what ways. Okay, so
my nostrils are open.
Right? Yes. Bodily fluids are pouring out.
Yes.
So, okay, the crime scene, the tunnel itself. First thing first, stupid thing that the French police did hours after the thing happened, after they got rid of Princess Diana from the tunnel, rather than close off the crime scene of this, huge thing that had happened with the most famous woman in the world, international incident. It should, by law, have required an inquest in France and in England as well. We'll get to that later, though. No, they reopened it within a matter of hours and wiped it down fully with bleach and all the cleaning stuff you imagine, completely destroying any evidence that was there, could have been there. Who knows?
Christ.
Yeah.
Excellent work.
You get a lot of these things are going to be looking at it thinking, well, if it's not a cover-up, if it was all legit, how are they so bad?
Yeah.
Why is it done like this? It's just how it. This is why I look at this as like our generation's version of JFK.
Yeah,
in a sense, and also what soured us against, like a lot of the government and all that side of things.
Yeah.
But
the amount of conspiracy theorists that spawned, because like it was everywhere, like especially when you're a kid and something like this happens and everyone around you's going, oh, it was definitely something of a conspiracy, and especially when it's got like reason to believe it as well, when it's like there's enough weirdness around it that you're not sure.
What do you remember from being a kid and hearing about it? And like, what's your
when I was a kid, literally when it first happened, I just remember my parents talking about it.
It's always the parents talking about it. That's one thing I've noticed. Like the parents were very into it, and then it's like after that, it just it was like the parents soured on it too. It's just they didn't want to admit it or something, and then we obviously did. Carry on.
I think a lot of parents just sort of, especially my parents, like there's very few people who give a shit about it anymore, and that happened quick. Like that was one of the first few big like news stories where people started going, I'm so sick of fucking hearing of this shit, because they will not stop fucking talking about it. And I think that, if anything, adds a bit more to the whole conspiracy of it, because if you just keep having like something battered into your face over and over and over and over and over again, you go, I don't really fucking care anymore. I'm so sick of fucking seeing it. I don't give a shit what happened.
I don't think that's by design, because they're doing the same thing with Prince Philip now. It's just they think they're important enough that everyone should stop what they're doing for all this time. But I can see why that would then lead to, considering everything that went on before this. She's been kicked out of the royal family, brought back into the royal family officially after all this, because it kind of helped them. Well, It's just a whole fucking. There's just so much, man. So much fucking ridiculous stuff that happened in this. So one of the main narratives that were peddled was for quite a while. Originally, it was blamed on a paparazzi, completely by the police, and then literally like days later, I think it was like 10 days or maybe even 3 days, something like that. They changed it to it was the driver's fault because they got the blood work back, and basically they're saying this guy was drunk. It was his fault.
Oh yeah,
he was
I remember
drunk.
that. I remember that. Yeah.
His blood work though. Okay, so apparently this Henry Paul, he was head of Ritz security, and he was actually an MI6 informant too. A few people are actually have links to MI6 in this, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He was a chauffeur for the night, driving at the time just because he was persuaded to doing it. Apparently, his blood work showed that he had something like a 2 or 3 times the limit, driving limit. You know, the alcohol drink driving limit. But that's not the important part, because he also apparently had 30% carbon monoxide in his blood.
What the fuck?
30% carbon monoxide, which if you had that, you very much just could be dead. But if you're not dead, then you'd have nausea, you'd have
and carbon monoxide is aggressively poisonous, and it doesn't go anywhere for a very long time. It stays in your body for a long time.
So, you know, like naturally you wouldn't expect him to be able to, you know, like be in any condition to be walking along like to the car and stuff. Just driving the car would be crazy to imagine.
Yeah.
Just imagining it, but then when you see the CCTV camera of him walking to the car out of the hotel and just walking along jolly, stopping, tying up his shoe, talking to someone, you know, just being jovial and normal, going in, it's blatantly obvious that was not his blood work. It's just not.
Yeah.
So, did you not know about that part?
No, I didn't know that bit.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the things that got me interested in this originally. Like, there's a few things that happened in regards to his post-mortem as well. 28, apparently, after his post-mortem was done, his family eventually got some independent people to look at it. Doctors of the same kind, whatever they're called. And they came up and noticed and reported on 28 critical errors that were identified during it, including not timing any of the procedure, you know, none of the basic stuff, you know, a lot of basic stuff, and then also not even attempting to give any reason for the carbon monoxide poisoning.
See, that is the weirdest thing as well, because it's not like something that just happens, especially not in a fucking hotel like that. You don't just suddenly get fucking carbon monoxide poisoning unless everyone else out there is getting carbon monoxide poisoning, because it's something that leaks out of a shitty fucking heating system. Like, that's the only real reason you'd come into contact with it.
A few people did try and argue that maybe it was. I don't know where it came from, but at one point there was this narrative put out that the carbon monoxide would have come from the airbags when it popped open. But it was very quickly, people were like, there's no carbon monoxide in an airbag. What are you on about?
No, and certainly not to that extent anyway. No. Like, there's not to the point where it would fill your body to 30% of your blood.
No, which is why they say at the very least there was a mix-up in at least, because there was loads of like different cadavers or whatever they call them, you know, John Doe's in the morgue. That's it, morgue de Miles. Yeah, there was a lot of them at the time, so it could have been a few. But there's some semblance of logic as to why people blame the car, because apparently the car they were in as well, literally days before, like 10 days, I think they said, 10 days before this, it was stolen, but then randomly returned in perfect condition. The only thing that was an issue with it was missing the onboard computer, which controls the acceleration and navigation and the electrics in general for the car. And people are like, well, maybe something happened in the car like that. Maybe it was that. Why
would you drive that car?
I know. That's exactly what they pointed out as well. It's like, this guy is so rich. Why would they? I guess maybe they just liked the car, though. And they were just so happy to have it back.
I mean, maybe, but like, if you like the computer on a car, even a fairly rudimentary one at the time, is still pretty fucking crucial to how the car runs. You wouldn't just go, fuck it, we'll just That makes no sense to me at all.
I imagine it must have been in a sense that, like it was still drivable. It probably just didn't have a lot of the extra things you could do. Like you could switch it, I don't know, maybe to sporty acceleration. You couldn't do any of that. You were just on driving.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all a moot point anyway, because basically Mercedes were like, okay, what we'll do, they came out publicly and said, just to, just get rid of any rumors that it was something wrong with the car, or just to see if anyone did anything to the car, give it to us. We'll give it a full check over, see what happened, like give it fully go balls deep into checking it all, and publicly put out the results. 3 times they attempted this. Every time they were told no.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which, once again, why?
Yeah. There's no reason unless you're trying to hide something.
Yep. But this is no way all. Yes. There's so much in regards to this. And I haven't even written down everything here, man. It's just so much.
Jesus Christ.
It was 36.
I'm fascinated, but
there's little tiny things as well. Like it was said that when they go into the tunnel, there's like a speed camera, a flash camera that takes photos. Because it was another thing. They were with the car as well. It was originally said that they were speeding going 120 miles an hour because when they found the car, the speedometer had stuck on that. Right. And it's just a ridiculous myth that people think. Mercedes came out at the time and said, no, that's not how it works. It doesn't stick to that.
If it had hit the fucking wall at 120 miles an hour, they would have been liquefied. Yeah, I
mean, I think you could be smushed up a lot because the two
have you seen a 60 mile an hour crash?
Which is what they actually think it was. A 60 mile an hour crash.
Yeah, 60 mile an hour crash is horrendous. Like I remember when I was a kid, they took us to I think it was Gaydon, the Rover and Land Rover manufacturing plant.
Yeah.
And they were like, what we're going to do is we're going to show you what happens when a car does an impact at 30 miles per hour. And they sort of have it on a tow chain and it pulls it across and just bang straight into it. You're like, fuck, that looked like it really hurt. And then they go, and now we're going to show you footage of what happens in a 60 mile an hour crash. And that shit, it's not nice to watch. It looks fucking disastrous.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because a lot of things people say is like, I don't understand how going at 60 miles an hour you could get that damage, but this is just people generally saying it. I haven't seen any there hasn't been any particular experts coming out making this point, because I guess it's just, you don't need to. It's obvious this could happen.
A 60 mile an hour crash, well, to put it into perspective for people, a 60 mile an hour crash, if you're driving a modern car, will probably crumple almost the entire front of your bonnet.
That's a modern car,
just disappear into the car.
These were 90s, so you imagine the car was at least at least 90s, early 90s, so it's not going to be anywhere near as safe as the cars now.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the problems. It probably wouldn't crumple as well. 90s cars were more rigid and solid. And so the impact and the shake goes more into the person inside the car. Yeah.
Hence why she had to get cut out as well, because it would have gone in all in random ways,
Yeah, it was crumpled up all around her, yeah.
There's lots of little tiny things as well, though, because if they're going at 60, it seems, because that still would have been slightly speeding, just not 120 like they tried to make out.
Yeah.
But all the witnesses that did see them going in, the few people that obviously wouldn't have realised at the time what it was, but saw a car, saw the people go in, they said they weren't going 120 miles an hour. It's just they just weren't going that fast. 60 they could buy.
Not in the centre of fucking Paris. I'm just
exactly.
You wouldn't
middle of the morning, but still.
No, even then, because it's not like it's a big. Well, it is a fairly wide open road, but it's like you're still in a city. Yeah, no, but I mean, for a tunnel, it's fairly wide. You've got a nice bit of space, but you're not going to be fucking shooting around it like you're on the fucking autobahn.
No, I mean? And it's one of those ones that goes down as well, like the tunnels like you see in town and stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of witnesses said that, but there's also the police or the government at the time said that there was no the flash somebody said something about this photo existing. There's always been this rumors of this photo existing of the speed camera took a photo of them when they were going in, and from that photo you could see how they were acting. There was a photo that was taken from inside the tunnel from someone in a car behind or something.
Right.
So, but this photo anyway, which gives even more reason why bother saying this. It's just another idea of just saying it and it's just making it seem like a conspiracy. Because they said this camera was never working, it never took their photo, yet someone who went into the tunnel just before them and was speeding received a ticket and a photo from that night.
Wow. Okay.
So,
that's just
factual.
Why. Yeah.
And then other little bits on top too. Dodie, he had a mobile phone. He's always had it. Few other things too, but he always had his mobile phone. Apparently, he definitely had it at the time because one of the guys who survived talked about him being on it, or you could see it. Either way, they knew he definitely had it at the time. And it was reported. The police stated that he had nothing on his person except for a wad of cash. So he had no phone. His phone went missing completely. Never seen again. Which, once again, okay, why?
No, that's weird. That's really weird.
And I'm trying to get rid of some of the little bits first before I get to some of the main bits here.
The thing is, as well, like there's so many reasons why the royal family wouldn't want her around. Just so fucking many.
Even without the pregnancy rumor and all that stuff. It makes sense anyway. Just her giving a bad name, just the image. That's it. That's all they care about. The image of the royal family.
And the weird thing as well is, like, over time, it's almost like it's become like everyone knows it, but no one fucking says it. If you know what I mean, it's a joke.
That
you'll hear all the time. If like anyone pisses off the royal family, like I did the joke. I'm not than anyone else. But like. The Meghan Markle stuff or the Prince Andrew stuff before that. Yeah, literally any single time. We as a nation would be almost fine with it if the Queen came out and said, "Yeah, I absolutely killed the bitch." No one would fucking blink a fucking. Well, about 50% of the population wouldn't blink an eye. It's the Queen.
Yeah. It's never going to happen, though. It's just never going to happen.
No.
Never. I mean, look at the stuff they're doing now, just to which sours their image even more. And it's hilarious that they think, considering how much they care about image, and we heard that from the Meghan Markle, Oprah Winfrey, and Harry interview, they care so much about image, and that they're so backwards minded in the sense that they think they're coming across well in this. They think, ignoring the Diana thing, you then go and you got Prince Andrew basically proven to be a pedo. Not only do they protect him, they also are absolutely fine and don't mention the fact he's not going to America to help the people that are also, if he was innocent, why wouldn't he go to America to help the people by testifying? But no, he doesn't do any of that, and they're cool with it.
No, he's just going to stay here in a place where we aren't going to extradite him because he's a royal, and that means he's better than most people and doesn't deserve to go to jail.
And naturally, the next step from that is when Prince Philip, his dad, dies. I'm pretty sure it's his dad. That will be the time to bring it back on our screens after 2 days of no programs. I think so. 2 days of no programs, everything being taken off, and everything being about Prince Philip, ended all off by Prince Andrew on screen talking, where even his family was staying distant from him, which I found hilarious. He was standing with just one side of the church, and the other group of his family were just on this other bit, which I don't blame them at all. It's just hilarious.
The further you can stay away from the inevitable fallout, the better, realistically, for them.
And this ties in even more because this is the death of Princess Diana is on par, of ridiculously obvious, on par with Epstein, his death.
Yeah.
Which it could be an accident. It could be all legit. It could be it could be anything but a conspiracy. But
it's when the conspiracy becomes weirdly more likely than the truth, then you've got something, especially in this scenario.
When you have to really explain stuff away rather than Rather than persuade, you have to explain.
Oh yeah, the camera wasn't working. Well, it clearly was. Oh well, she was doing 120. Well, she clearly wasn't. Oh well, the guy was drunk. Well, we've got footage that he didn't drink. So
yeah, and apparently, he was inhuman as well.
What?
Well, he was inhuman. Apparently, he was walking around with 30%. Like, that level is way too high.
Of course, yeah. I thought for a moment you were like, he's also a superhero. What the fuck?
But they said that's the kind of level that people get. Like when they suffocate themselves, like with the exhaustion.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the kind of thing they expect.
That's the way you die when you are sucking on a tailpipe. That is what you do. And not a good one either, on a shitty combustion engine that isn't doing it properly. Not, by the way, a fantastic, beautiful Mercedes that's brand fucking new.
A little thing here too. This is like one of the main bits of the story. Like, it's a bit convoluted in regards to the exact times, the exact things of how it worked. But basic crux is here. It took them however long to cut Diana out of the everyone else, like the two, Henry and Dodie, had died on impact. The bodyguard was already out, taken somewhere by this point. Took time to cut Diana out. She was put into the ambulance. From when she was put into the ambulance, it took 1 hour and 10 minutes to complete a 3-mile journey to the hospital. A journey that passed 2 other good hospitals on the way, and then waited outside for almost 5 minutes before even taking her into the hospital. It even stopped twice on the way, one at a time, just 300 yards from the hospital.
What? Why?
They apparently took ages to even start. Once they got her into the ambulance, they took ages to even leave, and then they kept stopping, and it went past hospitals, which were completely fine. They weren't shitty hospitals either. Like, they were good, they just went past them.
That makes no sense.
A lot of witnesses say she didn't seem too bad or anything when she went into the ambulance. But then Paul Burrell, her, that famous butler you always hear about, he, when he got to the hospital, whenever after, he got given her clothes, in a bag, and they were just seeped in blood. So he's like, he doesn't understand what happened from the witness accounts. He doesn't understand what happened from when she got in the ambulance to whatever happened later on by the time 4 a.m., like we said, when she was dead.
That's so weird.
And there is also a report of a small nick, little, what's it called? Puncture wound, I guess. Tiny little wound, like puncture thing from, say, a needle on her inner thigh, which I don't know how a crash and then her being like that would then lead to her having cardiac arrest, because she seems too young and too fit to.
And there are a lot of types of drugs that are cardiac drugs. They will stop your heart. They will make you have a heart attack.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
It gets weirder. After this, they straight away in the hospital. Apparently there was a low-level British, some representative from some kind of like the monarchy, something. They never really went into explanation of who it was or anything. But he gave them the go-ahead to do this. Why he came up at all, God knows. Instantly, straight away, she was put into formaldehyde and embalmed.
What the fuck?
No tests could be done. Nothing could be done. Just nothing at all. They couldn't check to see if she was pregnant even after that point. Once she's embalmed, she's embalmed.
Why the fuck was that within his jurisdiction to decide? That's what's so weird.
Apparently, the royal family do it in general, but what should have happened is it would have got, because like I said, once she died, they decided she was in the royal family again. They brought her back. They would have brought her back, and the royal doctor would have checked them over and then embalmed her, which is what's supposed to happen. But they just did it
on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost sounds weirdly, almost like a witness protection thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It almost
like she's alive somewhere.
Yeah, and this is a fake Diana who died.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy I've never heard. And that would be one way that she could really get away from the public eye, which is what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And Dodie could have gone with her. He was dead too, apparently.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, maybe even the bodyguard wasn't the bodyguard if he was seen so fine and then suddenly wasn't and full of carbon monoxide.
The security guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes as much logical sense of any of this. And I don't know how you'd put together this, but maybe the fact that it was in France means it's more likely that she could get something like this done because it's not in the royal family's home turf.
Yeah, it's not within their jurisdiction.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people had something to do with MI6 in this, and they could easily go against the royal family too. These links could mean anything.
Yeah, that's the only thing is the connection with the MI5 or MI6 rather genuinely makes me think probably more likely that it would have been a direct hit.
Yeah,
because they are weirdly dedicated to the Queen.
They were talking about this MI6 agent that they talked to at the time that said basically he didn't see any reason as to why he would be in like an MI6 involved assassination attempt of any kind until he was listening to the news, and they mentioned a lot of the witnesses mentioned seeing a big flash from nowhere ahead of them, like ahead of where they were going towards. There was also a report of a flash behind them too, and a really loud noise, but it seems like that might have just been with the car hitting the pillar and the reverberations of the tunnel. But this crazy flash of light anyway, and apparently why he found that interesting was they put MI6 put an assassination plan together to kill this Serbian president or leader at the time. Forget his name, but you'd know his face. Yeah, he was like some bad dictator guy from the time. And they put this plan together. They were going to kill him in the Geneva tunnel, specifically going to make him crash in this one specific way with like an extra car in there to do it. And also strobe lighting in front of them to put them off so they wouldn't be able to see where they're going. Everything they could do to make them crash.
I mean, you could potentially start a seizure in someone who's capable of receiving a seizure. You can blind the driver with a incredibly intense directed beam of light, and then they won't be able to fucking see where they're going. Yeah, there's loads of fucking ways this can be made to happen.
And this was reported a lot, and it makes sense that they just made a crash happen so that then at the very least, if she didn't die, they could get her into a position where they've got her to kill her, and they can cover it up quite easily.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because
we're still like, debating it rather than.
I know it sounds silly as an allegory for it, but do you remember seeing Sherlock Holmes, the second one, A Game of Shadows?
Oh, the film, yeah.
Oh, no, was it A Game of Shadows? Or was that
Book of Shadows? Or Game of Shadows?
No. I think it was A Game of Shadows.
It's something of shadows. Definitely something of shadows.
Yeah. Well, in that one, they've got the guy who they bring a bomb into a place to bomb a group of delegates trying to go for peace, but during that explosion, they shoot one guy specifically because it's difficult to ensure someone dies from an explosion, but you can shoot someone first and make it look like the explosion killed everyone and get your target. And that's exactly what this is. Cause a fucking catastrophe of some kind so that you have an excuse for why a person died. Yeah.
There's been quite a few examples of that. I can't think of any right now, but I know there's been a few things. I'm thinking more films when it comes to that, but you imagine that concept's been used.
Oh, of course it has. If it exists in films, it's been used in covert operations.
If you can think of it, it's been used in war. War's like one of the oldest things ever. Yeah, I mean, war has made people use horrendous shit on each other. Just look at Agent Orange in Vietnam. Fuck that shit. And people look at war as in, have to be off fighting army against army. Now, more so than ever, it's like political wars. It's fought like this, like Diana, like going around doing all the stuff and that, and it's special operations. And The more covert you can be in getting the shit you want done, the better. That's why Russia is such a scary fucking group of people, because they are all about that shit. There's still more to this, man. There was a dude, Eric Patel, he was a witness. He was in a car behind, and he was in the car behind them, or 3 cars behind. And basically, he was in super shock when it happened. He doesn't seem to know exactly what happened still. But he reported a flash as well, reported seeing this other white Fiat that a few other people had mentioned, and we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, he was completely ignored by the police when he tried to call he was just disregarded completely. He even ran down. He was in such shock. He just ran to the nearest police station, started telling them and their reaction was put him in handcuffs and that and take him to calm down for a bit. Which, yeah, you know, if they didn't know about it and he just walks in running, making no sense. Okay,
I don't know. I don't know. If someone comes into a police station and they're upset about something, you try and find out what's going on. I mean, unless he's actually attacking a police officer, which I doubt he was doing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, he wasn't doing any of that. So yeah. But I mean, that's not even the worst part of it though, because after that, basically, the official story was all these other ones we've talked about, and the stuff he was saying, like the flash that he saw and all that, and the white Fiat having something to do with it. Basically, went against the official story by this point when the head of what was it, the chief of the French police? That was it. I had his name, but I haven't written it down.
Yeah.
Basically, came in and said to him, that story doesn't go any further than here. Like, you know, that's not the story. You don't say that anymore. Yeah, just basically like, you know, threatening without threatening. Yeah. Which strange, but once again, it's just one person's testimony, that is, but it's just strange. And we say that, but all of his tapes, all of his interviews, everything has all disappeared, was never even mentioned in the inquest that happened in France. And, you know, no one in England, because once again, it's just stupid that is. Yeah, we had no inquest in England, basically. There should have been by law whenever it happens.
Yeah. This is the other thing
Arguably, it did open. Arguably, he did open her, from someone from Scotland Yard. But after looking into it for a few years, he decided that it was too much for him to do and he couldn't give the time to it. And it's just nothing's happened again.
The thing about it as well that's weird is this was the last sort of one of these things that everyone kind of, to a certain extent, believed. Like, the conspiracy theories definitely started pretty quickly after this, but for the most part, the largest majority of people were just like, what a tragedy that she's gone through, what a terrible tragedy, what a horrible accident that happened. You can't really get away with that now, because, like, as you say with the Epstein thing, people look at Epstein and people just straight up know Epstein was bullshit. That fucking shit was bullshit. You know,
people that aren't interested in finding out what actually happened, or just ignore it to find it easier. Then they could, sure, but as soon as you look into it for a moment, you know, it becomes so obvious so quickly.
Yeah, that's what gets me, because, like, again, with Epstein, you can follow the leads fairly quickly. There's all these sort of little things, and you can put it all together, and there's enough information and enough sort of conspiracy knowledge out there that people sort of kind of put it together that, you know, this net couldn't have broken that way, that these cameras went off at this time, this went that, and everyone knows these facts almost now at this point.
Yeah.
But with this one, it was like you say, like the way you're presenting, it's fractured information.
Yeah, very much.
There isn't a solid theory around it necessarily, because it was, potentially because it was at a time when that kind of shit could have been way easier to hide, because you don't have you don't have people with camera phones around all the time. Could you imagine the difference if everyone had camera phones and would just stop Diana's in that car? Let's all fucking record this because shit's going down.
Because you would have slight cameras on phones at 1997, maybe, but not very good. But they were in a tunnel anyway, though, so they'd even thought about that. If if it was coincidence, it just coincidentally happened in a tunnel, so no one could take photos with anything,
Yeah, I mean, at most someone might have a Polaroid camera, and those have got no flash at all. Well, the cheap ones you could get didn't have a flash at all. You know, is someone going to get their professional camera equipment out in 1997, put it all together in the middle of an active road while the police are turning up? Probably not. You know,
and why has there just not been more of the paparazzi pictures coming out, which is strange. I never thought about that until now.
The paparazzi have been following them the entire time, supposedly. They've got all cameras. They've all been taking snaps the entire time, and yet all that shit's disappeared. No one knows where it's gone.
Think how much they'd be worth now. They wouldn't not sell them just because of the moral side of it. But they don't ever chasing them.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And again, at that point, they've not got digital cameras. They've all got fucking, film. What happens? You take the rolls of film off someone. They're confiscated. They never see them again. It's not like they could have uploaded it to Facebook before someone could have taken it off.
No backup or anything, and they were arrested very quickly after it happened. So I could totally see that being the case. Yeah.
Well, of course they would as well. They'd be like, "Oh, well, we've got to take this for evidence," and they just never see those fucking photos again.
Yeah, that makes sense because I haven't seen any of it, and there's been no mention of it. But
carrot and stick. Okay, we're going to pay you a little bit of money, keep your fucking nose out of it, and if you don't fucking keep your nose out of it, we're going to fuck you up.
And I imagine as well, like any photos may have shown what or mentioned now, which goes against the official story, because a lot of witnesses all agree that basically after it all happened, what sped out of the tunnel, there was a motorbike. No one really seems to think much of that.
I remember the motorbike being mentioned. I do remember that. People talking about a single lone rider.
Yeah. And also a white Fiat Uno as well, which is like a small white car. It just looks like the epitome of a crappy old car.
Cheap car.
Yeah. I haven't heard much about the motorbike person. Have you heard anything more about that then, or?
All I remember is that that was one of the things that the conspiracy theorists always ended up bringing up eventually, was like, and there was also the rumor of this guy on a motorbike. And it's like, well, what did the guy on the motorbike have to do? And it's like, well, we don't know.
They never found him either.
Yeah.
Well, the white Fiat person, once again, depending on where you go to, like there's different information in regards to it. That was reported at the time, there's been reported since. The French police said that it was at one point being used as a chicken coop, randomly, this white Fiat, because it was like a manhunt for the car, too, because if you find the car, they find, etc. Didn't have the license plate, but apparently, actually, I never thought about that. It should have been easy with the license plate. I don't know if they had that.
Even if you don't have the license plate, you should be able to match up the license plate to the VIN number on the car.
Yeah, they'd have something where they can match up, because there was this camera that wasn't working, apparently, but it was.
Yeah, because every car's got the VIN number on the bodywork and a VIN number for the engine, although I think that's got a different type of name for it.
Yeah.
And all of that is on a database directly connected to the license plate that's on the car. So there's no way they wouldn't have been able to identify it if they were trying to identify it,
apparently loads couldn't for ages and stuff, and then eventually I don't know once again who actually got it in the end or who figured it out, but eventually they discovered a couple of years later, from what I remember, just from the timeline how it works out. It wasn't that long later anyway. Actually it would have been about 2000, so about 3 years later probably. Eventually they found so there was this guy, James Anderson, French paparazzi man, a millionaire too, just very well off. He owned a white Fiat Uno. This guy also had strong political connections with the Prime Minister and other heads of France, including owning a motorbike with one. I didn't even think about the motorbike thing, but you never know. You never know. He was apparently reported to have been a secret informant for MI6 as well, which makes a lot of sense considering, which was confirmed by MI6 as well, sorry. They said it too. Or the agent that was working for him said that he had heard and seen evidence that he was an informant too. Because apparently they had quite a lot of them at this time.
Well, the informants were crucial around that time because the wall had only just gone. Well, I say only just gone down. It'd been down for about, was it 10 years at that stage or so? Was it?
Sounds about
was
right.
it less than that? Something like that. But the tensions
in the 80s. So
the tensions were rife still.
And you wouldn't have the internet, so you just wouldn't have as much free information going back and forth. It just makes sense,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But so this was all confirmed now. So this guy owns a white Fiat Uno. He was confirmed by friends to have been there on the night after he was gloating to friends, getting photos of them and that he was there basically.
Yeah.
eventually, we don't really know much more from that point up until later on, in June 2001, when he was found having committed suicide in the car. He killed himself. He committed suicide in the white Fiat Uno, June 2001. So this is like 4 years after it actually happened.
Yeah.
But like I said, it took ages to find it. So I don't know what happened with when they found it, if they did anything with it at that point. Nothing seems to show that they did any investigation still anyway. Whether it never got to the point. Because, get this. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just think it's... Why would he do it in that car?
Wow. That's not going to be the biggest question. Because Anderson killed himself by shooting himself in the head twice and then setting fire to himself and the car. The police legitimately ruled this as a suicide.
What?
Yeah. There's so much to this story that makes fucking no sense.
No sense. He shot himself twice and then set fire to himself.
In the head twice.
In the head.
I buy that you can do that, and people have shot themselves again, sure. They don't then set fire to themselves. You do one or the other, surely, if anything. It's just...
Let's
a millionaire. It makes sense. Apparently, he split up with his partner, and this is why a lot of people think that he killed himself. But all his friends were like, he was not that at all. He was fine. He was good. He was rich. He was happy.
Let's do a little thought experiment here, shall we, Carl?
Go on.
So, you have decided to kill yourself.
Right.
You have a gun. You have shot yourself once, and it's failed to kill you. Now, you have two options open to you. Do you shoot yourself in the head again, or do you set yourself on fire?
It's a hard choice, ain't it?
I think you've probably... it's relatively hard, but I think the one that's going to hurt less...
Don't get me wrong, you're saying it as if he shot himself in the head twice and then he just decided to set it on fire. No, he planned this because he had filled the place with like petrol-covered stuff all over the place. It was covered in flammable stuff. And from what I gathered,
why didn't it go off when he fired the first fucking round? What the fuck are these?
Maybe that's what he hoped.
Playing at? This is insane.
And it sounds like
because if you shoot yourself in the head and it doesn't kill you, and you decide, fuck it, I'm doing this, I'm shooting myself in the fucking head again, and it still doesn't kill you. I think at that point you take the third shot and as many others you need to finish the job. What you don't do is then go, you know what I will do instead? I will burn myself alive in what is probably the most painful possible way to fucking die.
Gotta be. I suppose you probably wouldn't know what killed him. It'd probably be very hard to tell what actually killed him from that point. He could have been dead before any of this, like for all we know. Like he could have been assassinated shockingly with all these connections. He's got the white Fiat. They even proved eventually from some independent thing that did happen at one point that they found white paintwork on Diana's car, that came from the white Fiat. So it seems as though that must have gone into the side of it. So it seems to me that they were going along fast. This light went off, whatever, to distract him. At the same time, his white Fiat went into the side, knocked it just a little bit, went straight into the pillar, didn't completely kill her. Because by the time the driver on the way in the ambulance.
Yeah, by the time the driver's come back to his senses and able to function, he's already in the fucking war.
Yeah.
God, that's fucking weird,
and
man.
I'm not going to lie, this is a small part of like some of the stuff that is out there, some of the other stuff that's included in this. There's books been written on it by this one dude. I want to get the book. It looks really interesting. There's a really good documentary that I watched. I watched two in the end, actually. One was specifically good on Prime. It was it Diana, the Conspiracy? It had something to do with Diana, the Conspiracy in the title. It went into a lot of detail. There's one which is basically a talk from some college professor, which isn't very good. Don't watch that one.
Yeah, those ones can be interesting. Those are the kinds of things where I'll watch them after I've watched everything else that's more entertaining, just to get the extra bits of data that you don't
Just to
get
find any
anywhere
little
else.
nippets.
Yeah,
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
but there's so many of that in this, and like I said, there's so much I didn't include, and there's so much going from before that time, and all the stuff that she talked about happening in the. It just doesn't seem crazy to me to think that, you know, the royal family or the institution, after everything we've heard, would do this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, and I hate to, you know, I've always been relatively pro royal family, but like even for me, it's waned over the past few days, not few days, few months and years.
Be weird not to.
But yeah, there's a thing about apparently the Queen still sort of, she doesn't like the servants to like address her normally and things like that, and they can't touch her because she is, you know, she's the queen, and you know, is royal, and it's like all of that personality, all of that idea of how you run your life and how to act is exactly what causes this kind of mentality of like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm a royal, for fuck's sake. I can do as I choose.
It's funny because they talk about it as well. Like some of the ones, like Prince Harry did the same thing. Like they talk about it as if they're trapped in this thing, which I get the logic, but you're also trapped in the sense that you are the one that's trapping yourself. Like you are the only one with the power to get out of said trap. So it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It's just kind of silly.
Yeah,
like,
it's the thing. It's so difficult to be a royal. Is it though?
Really?
It doesn't appear to be. It, like, you seem to be doing pretty fucking fine.
And it's just like a lot of the thing that I complain about a lot of the time, like just in general, this idea that you should listen to how you're told you should live your life.
Yeah.
Like, no, you have the balls to live your life how you want to live your life, and if you're happy with it, and that's what matters.
Exactly. Live your goddamn life like John C. Lilly.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah. That's the epitome of what I meant.
Yeah. You can either be a Queen Elizabeth or a Dr. John C. Lilly. Now, which one are you going to be?
You should do whatever makes you, whatever feels right to you, whatever makes you happy. Just do that. Be you, unequivocally be yourself. Do what makes you happy. Unless your name is Prince Andrew.
Yeah. In which case, don't. Just don't.
Or Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a friend. Bless her, who still thinks that Michael Jackson was fine, and there was nothing wrong there at all.
Oh, I love mentioning Michael Jackson at any opportunity, just to see people's face, and you always get some kind of reaction, or you can see it on their face. They just don't want to say anything because they know, but they don't want to say it.
They know, but they don't want to admit it. That's the thing as well. It's like, oh no, but he was such a great musician. Doesn't stop him from being a paedophile. No. Like,
and it's like, they say it as if like that should excuse it.
That should exonerate it. Yeah, that exonerates everything. Like, but he made Beat It, so let's just accept it.
Like Jim Jeffries says about this level of, like, he wants to know what this level of talent you need to reach is before it's when it's okay to be a paedophile. Sorry.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, like,
because Michael Jackson's clearly there. Yeah. Charlie Chaplin as well. Charlie Chaplin, one people don't think, and I like Charlie Chaplin movies, but like the dude was not cool.
Yeah, it wasn't
in a lot of ways.
Quite young, because it was Elvis that had someone living with him, Priscilla, until
Elvis
she was 16,
Elvis
and
had
married her.
She was like 13 or 14 when she met him, and it was I mean, even Jimmy Page. Is it Jimmy Page, the singer from Led Zeppelin, or is that Robert Plant? No, it's Robert Plant, the singer, isn't it? Yeah, Robert Plant's the singer, I think. And he was caught up in it. Pete Townsend as well, from the fucking Who, same fucking shit. God damn, the amount of fucking.
It just gives a lot of credence, doesn't it, though, to when you hear like people say like that the whole concept of Jeffrey Epstein, for example, was like involved in MI6 as well, or what? I think it was MI6 they were talking about, or some kind of one of those, you know, secret society head policey things. where he would like, not only he would be doing it because he's just a messed up dude, but also he would be bringing people in and getting them to do stuff and videotaping it to use it as leverage over them.
Well,
And they
only a
wouldn't even
messed up dude
always
could do
realize.
that.
Yeah, and they wouldn't
only a
even
messed up
always
person.
realize that they were young. But it's like, well, if you can look at the person and think, is this you it's just ridiculous to say I went into that and I was completely innocent. What?
Yeah, my general rule tends to be I like to sleep with people who are roughly 30. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because like when
that's not my general rule.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who sort of like, oh yeah, 18-year-old girls and stuff. I don't really want to bang an 18-year-old girl. It just seems like a lot of effort for not much payout. I would much rather
just weird and taking advantage, really.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but also it's like you've got to try and pretend to be someone you're not, and you've got to try and do that. I don't fucking have time for it. I don't. I would much rather be with someone who I like as a person, and also have like knowledge of how to be on
the same wavelength. Yeah. But there's not necessarily something bad about age gaps in general. Like my mom, for example, and dad have like something ridiculous, like a 7 or 8 year age gap. But this was from the younger one being like 25 or something, and the older one, like that's different. Once you're an adult, you're an adult.
Yeah.
But up until that point.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever thought about.
I like older women. I always preferred like 25-year-old, 22-year-old, that kind of thing, because you look good, and also you've had some semblance of. I like being a dirty bitch by that point.
Yeah.
But then older women, even more so. I don't know what it is lately. I just like older women. I need to tell you something about that other girl I was talking about before, but I'll tell you after we finished.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just that thing again, like around about 30s, man. About when you're around about in your 30s, you kind of sort of figure out what it is that you want, and then the women that you're coming into contact with, they know what they want, and that's easier. Because like if everyone knows what they want in a sexual situation, and everyone's willing to communicate that easily, and it's all just fun and games and enjoying yourself, that's way better.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not this sort of nervous weirdness of like, oh, what am I doing? Am I doing it right? Yes, you are. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you should always have sex chats. I've said this many times to friends. I was like, you should always have a sex chat. Like most of the time, it's after sex, not straight away after, where you're being like, was that okay? Like, rate me from 1 to 10. You just chat about what you like and don't like. It's just what you do. Or a lot of time in text talk. Like when you're flirting, like that's the one thing you can do when you're talking a lot at the beginning, because we said it a few times. It's so annoying having to talk for months before you meet someone nowadays.
Yeah, especially, the lockdown thing hasn't helped with that. You just end up.
Yeah, even before that though. Now it's just an excuse to have to do it.
I think people are going to start using the end of lockdown as an excuse to try and cut away some of the social media shit. I hope anyway. Either that or so people have just become so hopelessly addicted to it that they'll never leave it again.
People just need to stop putting so much. Just need to see it as what it is, a separate thing that doesn't mean anything. Stop giving it so much.
It's got
power.
nothing to do with life, and the best thing to do with it is just use it as something to get what you want out of it.
It's a free telephone.
Do you want to just look at cat videos all day? Then just do that on it. Do you want to just fucking promote your material on it like I do? Fucking do that on it. No one cares. Yeah,
it's just a tool. But the people, ironically, it's a tool that some people look at it in the complete wrong way, and then in turn act like a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they blame everyone else around them and act like it's their problem.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah. That beautifully positive note, as always. Yeah.
So that was.
I'm not.
That was fascinating, though. Genuinely, just sitting there thinking about all of the information there. And again, as I say, it's like it's pretty clear if you just look at it, like what's going down vaguely.
Yeah.
But again, it's vaguely. You don't have all the information. You don't have all the data that you'd have modern day.
It's weird, though, isn't it? Because I don't know about you, but since we've been doing all these, like, I've kind of got like a different semblance of how I look at conspiracies now. Like, that kind of thing is the idea of what comes across as a more believable conspiracy. Like JFK was exactly the same.
Yeah.
Just
when it's messy, as soon as it gets messy and weird, as I say, like, again, for me, the reason why I like the moon landing stuff, it's all got scientific explanation. You can follow the path. The same reason with, there's loads of other conspiracies where it's just like, okay, bam, and bam, and you disprove them all. But JFK, Diana, fucking, what was the other one?
Yeah, there's another one, isn't there? Because this is obviously another one.
9/11, 9/11.
The Tower 7,
the Tower 7 and 9/11. Like, there's these things that are just, even if they are real, are true, as you say, there's just enough stuff out there that it doesn't quite hold together, you know. And this one, more than any of the others, I think. This one's got so much shit in it that's just like, why the fuck didn't you do your job right? Why the fuck didn't you do that right? Why the fuck didn't you report this? Why the fuck didn't you fix this? Like,
and honestly, there's a lot more. I had to cut bits out, like, just so it didn't go. Like, this is the edited down version. There was so many more random bits in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with the dolphin experiments, if I'm honest, but that was all just incredibly weird LSD trips. So not all that much lost.
What was the reasoning for that? Like, were they just trying to see if getting the dolphins high on LSD would open up their mind to talk more?
Yeah. Basically, literally, that was the idea, is that people who both do LSD at the same time say that they can sort of talk to each other and shit like that and get each other's emotions potentially and shit like that. It's been one of the trips that people have experienced. And they were like, oh, well, then that solves how we talk to dolphins then. Let's get them high.
I mean, it's a cool concept, though. If if people have done that, like tripped and had the same trip together, but I don't know how you would really prove that.
No, I don't think you can.
No, I suppose unless you literally straight away both went to separate places and told someone what you did. But that's not what happened.
No, because the minute you start talking to someone, it's like a dream. Like, you'll start mixing up bits from sort of what you were thinking, or whether you were reinterpreting something by talking about it. Again, like coming up with a memory, like you change the memory every time you access it.
Literally every time you go into it, it changes.
Just a tiny bit.
I'm just having a look to see if there was anything particularly that I missed, actually. From the thing, it doesn't look like it. Diana's body arrived in a condition of serious hemorrhage and shock. Hospital anesthesiologist says. An urgent surgery showed a severe wound to the left pulmonary vein. Despite the closure of this wound and the 2-hour external cardiac massage, no official respiratory circulation could be established.
Jesus, cardiac massage is nasty too. You know what that is?
No, just rubbing the heart.
Well, basically, instead of using the shock, they cut open a hole and literally just go.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. That does not seem like the best way to go about things.
Sometimes it is the only legitimate way to keep the blood going through the heart. Like, it doesn't have enough strength left to do the muscles itself, so you just fucking keep it going.
It feels like at that point you're really fighting a losing battle, though.
You are. 9 times out of 10, that is not a situation that succeeds. Basically, it's the last attempt you can do.
Yeah, so none of this though, and the family have still been trying to get Henry's body back so they can do their own tests or something, but they were never allowed to do it.
They'll never get it back now. And even if they could, they just got bones. What can they do?
Yeah. By now, you're right. Actually, unless it was, to be fair, you don't know, it would have been preserved. Probably would have been like embalming, wouldn't it? And that would have got rid of all that anyway.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I think that's
that's
we can go with that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Sometimes it's interesting to just sort of hear all the facts and be able to put it together, because there's so many different ways that can go.
Yeah, it would have been impossible to try and really make a semblance of logic and try. I don't understand all of it, how it goes together anyway. I think it'd be impossible to.
It doesn't make sense. Like again, talking about before, like editing and it being a jigsaw puzzle. Like, this is a jigsaw puzzle where you've got all the pieces and they're from different fucking jigsaw puzzles. You know, none of it makes fucking sense. You've got a Thomas the Tank Engine next to a Stingray. You've got nothing. Yeah.
Oh, okay, then. So, just to mention again, I can't remember if we mentioned it at the beginning of this part or not, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. Where's the picture gone? Oh, did I? Oh, I put it on the other one. That's why. I don't know why I had the wrong thing loaded up originally. That's but did I? Yeah. So coming up this Wednesday / last Wednesday, depending on when you're watching this, the 21st of April 2021 will be AP's Comedian Quiz Off, where Alex Plant takes over the quiz because he's a dick. He's going to put me up against 3 Alexes. That's Alex Bayton, Alex Leam, and Alex Stringer. Alex Leam, obviously, is the man behind the Awkward Question Time show that we went head-to-head with a couple of weeks ago, and they killed us in the Comedian Quiz Off 30 special. Yeah, completely whooped us.
Yeah.
Other than that, I will be on the Alternative Clover Meeting Comedy Lockdown Quiz on Friday, the 23rd of April, and then on the 25th of April, Awkward Question Time that I mentioned as well, with Alex Leam. And then this at some point.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've got a friend messaging me, and he's just told me that he's watching a documentary, and one of the names that was in it was Sven Borkson, which is just such a fucking great name. That's all I need to. That's the perfect end, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to do my plugs again, don't I? So yeah, don't forget about the Kill Them with Comedy. We're always here. Don't forget about the quiz, of course, because that is going to be fucking brilliant. They always are. And yeah, and always remember that Post-Apocalyptic Metal Treehouse is out there. It's out there, and it's waiting for you. That's right. That's right. It's waiting for you. And you can either go to it and be prepared, or it can come to you and you will not be prepared.
But either way, you need that bucket in your life, trust me.
Goddamn right you do. You need a bit of King Leopold Bucket IV, and you can find him on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find Post-Apocalyptic Metal Treehouse. 4 episodes out right now, a 5th one coming. It's just the right time to get into it. It's like WandaVision.
You just start getting yourself into like the random online panel shows as well now that we're getting.
I do keep meaning to, but I don't know where to sort of talk to these people and get them in, like, get it involved. You know, I don't know where to start.
Alex Leam's always a good one. I can play some over. Alex Leam's a good one, and there's a few others. Benny Shakes as well. Callum's another good person to ask about it because he knows a lot of them. Yeah. I definitely want to get out there. And King Leo needs to be seen. So. Yeah, I'll do some with King Leo for sure. Yeah, anyone that wants to check him out in person, go back to episode, I don't know, like 27. I think it was 27.
I think it was 27.
Massacre. Yeah.
You'll notice it because it's the same KD style, but it's all green.
Yeah.
And there's a big question mark. And then suddenly, King Leopold Bucket IV, the bucket-wearing king. Yeah.
To a slightly different style than before, but it is basically the same. I only notice it because I'm the one that does it, and I just look at them for way too long and think about it way too much, like I do with everything. Way too. Yeah, I just overthink everything. Yeah, can't help it.
I do the same thing. Same thing, especially with the podcast. I'm stuck by my own obsession.
Yeah, I've learned now that the main thing to do is do something, get it finished, get it out, and then if you want to update it later, then you can do that. As long as it's to a good standard when you put it out, as long as you're happy with it. As soon as you're happy with it, get it out, and then you probably will never come back to it again. You go into something else.
This is sort of what I'm doing with the episodes. As I say, episode 5 is coming out, and episode 1 will be remastered. Actually, that's a good point. If you want to listen to the original version of Post-Apocalyptic Metal Treehouse episode 1, you're going to have to listen to it damn soon, because eventually it won't be there anymore. You won't ever be able to hear that version again. And if I become incredibly famous, you're going to want those bragging rights. Not that that's going to happen, but
it will happen. It will happen if we all want it to happen. It will fucking happen.
Goddamn right, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to Carl. Because you know why? Because we're goddamn beautiful and we're gods. Deal with it.
And if anyone says no to us, you know what we're going to do? We're going to kill them with comedy. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Good night. Peace.